What is that sound? What on earth is that noise? It sounds like bees. But like really amplified.
Here at Clearwater Beach, along with the sunscreen, comes the bug spray.
Where's my turn?
Especially for the smaller guests.
Make sure that they're covered a lot.
Jennifer Edmonds and her family aren't going to let anything stop their family vacation.
It's been planned for a while.
Not even Zika.
We weren't really worried.
That's good news for Pam Wozencraft, who depends on tourists to fill up her daily pirate cruise trips.
Of course, it's a scary thing. It affects families, and that's the core of our business.
But one travel insurance company predicts fewer crowds heading to Florida. A study by Alliance Global Assistance found that thousands of Americans are concerned enough about the virus to stop them from traveling to Florida.
Flu is serious. Flu is unpredictable. Flu often gets not enough respect.
Flu season is about to start, which means it's time for everyone to get their flu shot. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends everyone 6 months and older get the seasonal vaccine. And they are hoping the absence of the nasal mist vaccine won't deter people from getting protected from the virus.
The nasal spray is no longer recommended. We don't know why, but the vaccine efficacy data for the last couple of years suggests that it was not protective.
The National Hurricane Center announced Hurricane Matthew had strengthened to a Category 4 storm. A hurricane watch has been issued for Jamaica, and the U.S. Embassy in Cuba has issued an alert for Americans in that country.
It's been a pretty remarkable 24 hours, and a part of the Caribbean known as the graveyard for hurricanes. Matthew has not only survived, but actually strengthened quite rapidly. In fact, it's Category 4 as of Friday evening. 24 hours prior, it was only Category 1. 80-mile-an-hour winds, now winds up to 140 miles an hour. It's moving to the west-southwest at 9. This slower speed we see is good because it's eventually going to have to make a turn to the north, and without going further to the west, it's less likely to be a major impact to Florida.
If you can see it right there. That's a billboard and that's a truck. Billboard, truck.
One of the International Monetary Fund's key roles in the global economic system is to set aside money and lend it to countries at times of difficulty. The goal is to stabilize their monetary systems. The fund has allocated capital using a system called special drawing rights. Until now, a basket of 4 currencies: the US dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling.
The inclusion of the renminbi in the special drawing right basket will further diversify it and will make its composition more representative of the global currencies and the global economy. It is a significant change for the fund because since the euro this is the first time that a new currency is included.
China's defense ministry has reiterated the country's stance on U.S. plans to deploy the THAAD missile defense system in South Korea. Spokesperson Yang Yujun said China means what it says when it says it will consider countermeasures against the U.S. deployment. He added that Beijing will pay close attention to relevant development and will consider taking necessary actions to protect national strategic security and maintain the current regional military balance.
People leave their homes in the middle of the night, taking with them what little they can carry. They live in villages in Jammu district along the line of control, the unofficial border between India and Pakistan.
Maybe Pakistan will fire on us. That's why the government took the decision to evacuate our villages.
The government's given order to move out of Samba district. We're scared of firing from the other side, so we've come here.
Add something else. Another disgrace revealed at a veterans hospital in the state of Illinois.
A whistleblower claims, quote, some veterans' remains have been left in our hospital morgue for 45 days or more until they are stacked to capacity at times.
Well, developing tonight, a group of outraged students in Spalding County say they were blocked from praying at Griffin High School.
Yeah, those students tell Fox 5 that it's been a tradition for years for students to meet and pray around the school's flagpole before class. But this morning, those students claim the school blocked their access to the pole and to their right to practice their faith.
Turning to Syria now, government forces have clashed with rebels north of Aleppo and within the city center. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and the Syrian military source said the government forces had captured territory north of the city and buildings in the city center. Rebel sources, however, denied any further advances north of the city by government forces. This comes after Syrian forces seized the Handarad camp north of Aleppo on Thursday. The rebel official said government forces had advanced and then retreated. Aleppo has been divided over the past 4 years as both government forces and the rebels continue to fight for control of the city.
According to health officials there have been 338 deaths in the last couple of weeks due to the bombardment, including 106 children. 846 other individuals have been injured. Again, almost a third children, 261 children.
This month, Russian and Syrian government forces launched a campaign to recapture the rebel-held sector of Aleppo, abandoning a ceasefire a week after it took effect. Brennan said no hospital has the capacity to handle the hundreds of patients. He added that the WHO has had medical supplies for 140,000 people for weeks, but that the security situation prevented them from taking it to the city.
In Aleppo, at least 1,000 dead in just a week. In New York, at the UN, once again, paralysis and inaction by diplomats. The distance between the two cities is almost 9,000 kilometers, but it feels like they are worlds apart.
Last week, world leaders came to New York, sat around the very table that we're at, and met in ministerial level meetings, all with no tangible results. Instead, while the world leaders were meeting, violence actually increased. More civilians and more humanitarians were killed. It is time to place blame. It is time this Council stops tolerating the utter disregard for the most basic provisions of international humanitarian law.
What makes the situation particularly shocking is that disregard, in fact, war crimes, are being carried out not just by the Syrian government, but by Russia, a permanent member of the Security Council. It's now finally said it might support a 48-hour humanitarian pause, but that offer is being treated with deep suspicion.
The Russian proposal is designed to sound good, but to allow them to carry on their deadly bombing campaign.
The Syrian ambassador stayed away from this meeting, which took place 24 hours after I questioned him about the bombardment of Aleppo. Ambassador, did you bomb the two hospitals in Aleppo? A response the US ambassador focused on when she spoke to reporters on the same staircase.
You saw yesterday how the Syrian ambassador feels about the death, the slaughter of the Syrian people in Aleppo. He laughed. Syrian regime negotiator in Geneva laughed. That's the coldness and the brutality that we're talking about, and Russia stands right alongside those individuals and those bombers.
There's clearly a new strategy in the Security Council by the US, UK and France. They want to make sure the Russian delegation here in New York at every possible opportunity is forced to hear about the death, destruction and living hell that is life in eastern Aleppo. The idea is to shame them into stopping the bombardment.
The Obama administration says its goal is to admit 110,000 refugees to the U.S. in the next fiscal year, which begins on Saturday. That's an increase of 25,000, and that's despite anti-refugee rhetoric featuring prominently in the U.S. presidential election season. Much of the language has focused on displaced Syrians, what to do with them, and who and how many, if any, should be let in. Now, the U.S. government allocates slots by region, not by country, and Syrians fall into the Near East and South Asia category. The group also includes people from places like Iraq and Myanmar. Collectively, that group will account for more than a third of all refugees let in, according to the State Department. And officials say a third of those, around 12,000, could be from Syria. The next biggest group will come from the African continent, which will get 35,000 slots. That's 10,000 more than this year, the biggest increase for any group. This includes countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Somalia, and of course North African states like Libya.
A pastoral life at the foot of the Tian Shan Mountains. Chunghu is known for its idyllic beauty. Some 300 Kazakh families live in this village. 86-year-old Abay Juhmubai has been roaming the grasslands ever since he was born.
This place used to be very quiet, with few people living a nomadic life. Now we've seen a lot of people coming from outside. Animal husbandry has been restricted with the government's grazing ban.
Fierce storms trigger a statewide power outage. South Australia tonight in the dark. The widespread blackout causing mayhem across the city. Passengers are stranded at the airport, including Perth woman Amy Churak.
Definitely not going to make it home tonight. Look at all of these people. The line is not moving for the last hour and a half.
Public transport also at a standstill. Train lines closed, all traffic lights out, cars jammed for kilometres. Hospital staff forced to work under torchlight as backup generators power critical machines.
3 transmission lines and 9 towers have been taken down in the Port Augusta region.
Father of 2 gunned down in an apparent road rage attack while going to see his newborn son in the hospital. Dennis Silvato, he accidentally cut someone off while heading to the hospital in Federal Way, Washington. He says the other driver pulled out a gun and then followed him to his brother's apartment. He waited an hour there before leaving, but police say that Silvato left and then he was shot in the head in his car. His killer still on the loose.
That shooting took place last November, but the video's only just been released now because the 2 officers are facing murder charges. In total, they fired 18 shots into that car. The sound only appears in the footage once they finish shooting. The boy was hit 5 times in the head and the chest. Lawyers for the 2 policemen claim they're acting in self-defence, though they said the boy's father rammed into one of the officers' cars. The tragedy is just one of a number of incidents currently causing outrage over US police tactics.
Dealing with poverty has long been a part of the life of the people living in the Rodrigo Bueno slum. But Blanca Duarte says that in recent months, the situation has gotten even worse.
We used to take the public transport and now we're using it only when it's necessary. Going to the supermarket is scary. I see the situation has been deteriorating. People are struggling to make it to the end of the month.
Blanca is not alone. On Wednesday, Argentina released its first official poverty rates in 3 years. Those statistics say that more than 8 million people in the country are poor.
The United States has overseen the Internet's naming and numbering scheme for decades, but President Obama decided to completely hand over control to a nonprofit organization with no ties to the U.S. government. The Obama administration says the move has been in the works for a while. Critics warn it could endanger free speech by letting parts of the Internet fall under the control of dictatorial government.
She said, as soon as they fly over, they'll see.